Did I even? I did. I want to talk about being black as a mechanic. You kind of in a world, as a mechanic, man, you're kind of in a world where a lot of the time, like this is an old profession, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of the times, and most of my, most of my experience I'm talking about really has to do with previous jobs. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of it's previous jobs. I'm in more of a forward thinking kind of position now, but kind of want to talk about just previous jobs. To be honest with you, man, this is being a mechanic, like working in this field, man, and working on cars and being black. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of industrial work too. People that work in construction. You know what I'm saying? People that work on just a lot of the old professions where you work with your hands. You do get into it. Even like laborers that work in unions and stuff. You feel like I don't know. You feel like you're in the wrong. You're made to feel like you're in the wrong position. You know what I'm saying? I will say that, man. This is it's interesting working in that. I haven't seen really anybody talk too much about it. Us mechanics, we keep our hat down. We keep our head down. We work. A lot of us are not big on like we're not people persons or however you want to say it. But I will say this: it's you regardless of your skin tone or who you are, you do have to have a love for it. You do have to have a love for it. So let me break down the first time I started wrenching on vehicles from a mechanic standpoint, like actually fixing cars. I'm not gonna disclose what company it was, but it's a well known company. It's been around since before I was born. You know what I'm saying? And basically, so I get there. This is the first day. This is just in a nutshell. I get there, right? The people there are not really my age. They're a little bit older, so I'm already the young buck. And also they don't look like me. There was we had it was mostly Caucasian, and a little bit of Asian, going on over there, right? Uh, so again, didn't look like me, right? Lunchtime by yourself. But I would say one of the biggest things I learned was who looks out for their own people. When you're wrenching, right, and a lot of people that do wrench, when you're wrenching, um, a lot of the times, one of the biggest things is you'll have people that have been doing it since before you. They'll watch over you in a sense, right? They'll kind of watch over and look at what you're doing to kind of see, like, okay, maybe maybe you're doing something wrong, or because if you've been doing it for a long time, they could kind of look over and kind of hear, okay, yeah, you're tightening that too hard. You didn't torque that. You forgot to torque that. They can kind of look over and can tell. Maybe you might walk around and scratch your head a lot. If you're confused at what to do, how to fix something, you have like you might have all data pulled up for a little bit longer than usual. You might be walking around. It might be at the toolbox for a little longer than normal. There's lots of little signs. You can tell where somebody might be. They might be confused, or they might have they might be at an impasse, right? They might need a little bit of help. So, with that being said, people yell over from one lift to another lift, because again, a lot of times you're flat rate. So you're trying to get something done and give enough time to where you're able to bring something else in and stay ahead, stay on pace. If you have an hour to do a job, if a job pays an hour, right, to knock out, then, you want to get that job done quicker than that, to the point where you're able to, um, monopolize off that. Maybe you can bring in another car. If you got two jobs that take an hour to do, right? Your advisor comes in, they give you the paperwork for that car. You bring that car and you do your check in or whatever, right? Find out what's going on with it. Well, that's all processing time. If they give you an hour to do those jobs and they take you 30 minutes to do, then you just bankrolled another hour. So you're ahead of schedule. Some people will go home early, and some people stay late because they haven't met, their hourly that because what'll happen is you'll have an hourly if you're under a certain amount, if you're a certain amount under your flat rate. So, you might, let's say you might have an hourly of $25 an hour, right? And if you don't meet your flat rate and your flat rate's less than 25 an hour, it'll go up to your 25 an hour. That way you can at least, you could eat. Now, you're not going to stay employed there for forever if you're doing that, because you're not making money for the company. You're actually, they're losing money paying you hourly. You know what I'm saying? In a sense. So, usually, when you come in brand new, you hit up Quick Lube, or they might have a different term for it, but you're bringing in cars for brakes, oil changes, standard maintenance, lube check, all that kind of stuff. So that's like your standard stuff. But anyway, I'm not working with much oil or anything like that now, but at that time, that's what it was. So I came in, and I could immediately tell that people kind of did what they wanted to do, for who they wanted to do it for. And a lot of the times, you come in, you make friends, right? Because it's not always a race thing. You come in and you make friends. What I learned, with how people take care of each other is a lot of the times people take care of not just who looks like them, but who has the same ideology as them. So lunchtime, right? Lunchtime might come around, and if you're working flat rate, not everybody takes lunch at the same time. You know, not everybody takes lunch at the same time. Some shops, they run a group, right? So, there might be, these 3 lifts over here, those techs that run that go on lunch, right? Because what'll happen is a customer will come in and, oh, I'm flat tire, right? And so if you have an hour lunch, they're waiting for an hour. So, one of the quick lube guys, usually there's 2 or 3 or 4 quick lube guys, right? So they won't all take lunch at the same time, type of thing, right? Everybody doesn't. It usually staggers for one or more reasons, right? So, um, I guess the interesting thing is, sitting down and listening to them talk. You'll hear politics. They'll talk, to be honest with you, they talk about that stuff even though they know it's going to rub you the wrong way. They'll talk about it right in front of you. That's kind of a microaggression, right? They need to let you know they feel a certain way, but they can't say it to you. Either they're scared to say it to you, or they don't want to, or they just don't want to. It's a job. They don't want to get fired for saying something to you. So it's interesting. You know what I'm saying? The next thing I will say is this, man. Besides the talks, it's the jokes. Those are often the crowd. Those are usually, the old mechanics will make a joke with you, that's incredibly racist, right? Because now they got comfortable with you. This is something that they've been wanting to say to somebody black. They talk about it at the dinner table, and they finally have a time to make the joke. And 2 things pop into your head when this happens. This is not specific to being a technician, right? But 2 things pop up into your head. One thing is like, what about me makes you think that you can play with me like that? And the other thing is, what else do you have to say? Like, what else? Because a lot of times these are people that you end up, being partially okay with. You know what I'm saying? Then they hit you with that. It's disheartening because you find out something that you thought wasn't the case, about that person, but you found out it's true. So then you got to keep them at arm's reach, right? But everybody else, like I said, is buddy buddy. Now, what I will say is, I found that even after I got cool with people, um, nobody threw me a bone. You know what I'm saying? Nobody really threw me a bone. It was kind of like nobody threw me a bone. You know what I'm saying? It was I didn't have you people would look out for each other, right? They would do, and again, I watch new people come in and have this treatment, right? I watch new people come in. I'm not talking about, Dan, who's been there for 25 years, uh working with Mark, who's been there for 27 years, and they've been working together for that long, right? That's different. You can't you can't come in and be 2 years into that company and think you're going to have the same relationship. Now I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's not realistic. That's not how I'm judging it. I watched new people come in who were not good, and they got um almost, the tech would almost sit them on their lap and kind of show them how to do stuff. Put down their wrench and walk over. You know what I'm saying? Or you might be evacuating Freon or something like that, and they got the Freon machine hooked up, right? And they'd walk over there and help them out and kind of run it through them. Hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Well, come over here. Let me talk to you. Come on over here, right? And they wouldn't clock in on that job either. They wouldn't clock that job either. You know, and when I say that, I mean, you could, if you do work on a car, you can clock that job. You can go in and say, hey, I did this. I want to get paid for that amount of time, right? It was kind of a here you go kind of thing. And that's more of a shop foreman mentality, right? Because a lot of times you go somewhere, a shop foreman is the head technician at the shop. And a lot of times that foreman is just hourly. They might not get paid flat rate. They may or may not, you know what I'm saying? In certain places they won't. They get paid a really good hourly. And because they're kind of there to keep things going, keep things cohesive. They call meetings. They bring, they'll bring they'll help diag something, they'll help with the trainees, stuff like that. So that person you will hear from. But a lot of the other people, man, it could get a little brutal, man, get a little brutal. A little brutal, man. Like you can feel alone. I haven't seen too many shops where there's a lot of people of color at the shop. Uh, you know, Sometimes you might hit one where there's a lot of Asians. You might hit one where there's a lot of Latinos. But the thing is like I said, those are people of color, but they're not skin folk and they're not kin folk, right? So, and to no shade, it's just they're not there for you. You know what I'm saying? They're not. Um, they have their own people they got to take care of. They got their own stuff they got going on. So it's a little different. But yeah, man, there's I might come on and tell different stories and stuff from that I've seen. I mostly on my channel talk about mental health and motivation and stuff like that. So you won't see too much of this out of me. But I will say you can feel alone because you got especially as you move up and you have your own lift. You know what I'm saying? Once you move from Quick Lube, you got a couple of techs you might work under. They might have a couple of lifts, but you're able to run stuff past people. But even when you're working under a journeyman level tech, or depending on where you might have, they might could call themselves, depending on the shop etiquette, right? They might be called master tech, whatever. You get your different. There's trainings you take and there's certifications you take and all that. Besides your ASC and all that. And a lot of times you can even see it there where they don't really, they don't really, you know what I'm saying? Like they're there, but they don't really take care of you like that. It's not if you pick up my drift, like they do as much as they need to, but they don't really, I remember like I said, arguing with like shop leads, you know what I'm saying? I remember arguing like, something, I didn't do this, they thought I did, or they thought I didn't do this, but I did. You know what I'm saying? Or being like, why are you clocking that job that I just finished clock? Like I'm done. The job's done, and you're clocking time on it. You're clocking time on it because you're talking to me. There was this one tech. I knew this one tech that would literally, while he would come up to you, right, and it took me a while. I finally figured out what his game was. He'll walk up to you and ask you questions about the job and see if you need help. And he'll walk by and he'll kind of just look at the car and grab the license plate or whatever. And he'll clock time on that job, VIN number, license plate, whatever. And he'll literally be, while he's talking to you, he's actually clocking 20, 30 minutes on that job. He worked on very little because he had two techs under him. So he would work on very little, but I'm like, bro, you got 80% utilization, my boy. You got 80% utilization. You're not working 80% of the day. You're working 20% of the day. What are you doing? His job was to help train and do some of the bigger jobs, right? And some, higher level techs, what they'll do is they'll do the smaller stuff while they're training you to do the big stuff. And that's what usually helps, right? But you have to be able to process it. That's what you get paid more for. You get that level, right? As you raise up, your hourly will raise too, but because you're more valuable, your flat rate pay and all that type of stuff goes up, they'll send you more jobs. You'll get first, a lot of times they'll cherry pick, right? There might be 3 or 4 jobs on the board, right? And they might say, I want that one, because they know they can do that one in 20 minutes and it pays an hour. You know what I'm saying? Or you know what I'm saying? They big jobs, 3-4 hour jobs. And you can knock it out in an hour and a half. You just need to do a few of those in a day and you're good. So I don't know. In my opinion, I don't know. Feel like, that was a different world anyway. But to be totally honest, like I said, if I'm gonna be totally honest with you, one thing I did learn is that you could be as cool as you want to be with people. If they don't like you and they're not used to you or your type of people, you know what I'm saying? Then they'll never fully be cool with you. Lots of work parties, lots of different things like that, employees set up that I never heard about. You know what I'm saying? And in the position I'm in now, I'm not generally around everybody a lot. But at that point in time, I was around, we're working in a shop, this was years ago. At this company, at the company that I was at, we were working in the shop all day. So yeah, much, much better situation now where people are more of a team, where I'm at now. That's how I was back then, man. But what I was able to do was learn. I was able to learn and understand how shop etiquette is, do's and don'ts, learn my way around the machinery, get more comfortable with air tools and just shit like that, man. It's just shit like that, to be honest. So, yeah. Working as a black man, working in America as a mechanic, I would say, it all depends on the company you're at. When you get to a company, put your foot in, dig in, learn the trade, focus on certifications and getting better. And if you have a positive attitude, the worst attitude to have is, I don't need to learn, I know everything. Worst attitude to have. For your first 5 years as a mechanic, you need to be acting like you don't know anything. They say humble gets no respect. That job, your respect comes into your quality of work. The more you learn about how to do things, the more you gain your advisor's trust, the company's trust. That's where you get your respect from. You could be I don't know, man, I'm just trying to get like you. You could be that way all day. And then you could also be the guy that thinks he knows everything. Even if you still get the respect at that level, what happens is, and I've seen it, the people in the shop don't like you. They don't like to work with you. You get what I'm saying? So my advice for anybody, but you know what I mean, as a black man becoming a technician and working on cars, a black mechanic in America, is to focus on learning and focus on your skill set. I know it sounds cliche. Focus on that. Spend most of your time saying, I don't know things, and learning those things you don't know. Spend more time doing that than saying you do know something. Because, we want to kick it and chill with those techs that know everything, sit up and talk about what you did great. Oh, I did that. That was only 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? I've been doing this that's not going to get you any respect. And those people you're talking to, by the way, have been doing that for 10, 15, 20 years. They have the ASCs, the respect. They've been there since before that manager. They've been there 3 managers ago. They were there. You know what I'm saying? They earned their respect already. right? Let them do their thing. You stay humble and learn. Because what'll happen is the advisors will love you. The manager's gonna love you. The foreman will love you, right? Because you're putting out quality and you're not being cocky, you're not being rude, difficult to work with. So like the advisor technician, the the relationship between advisor and technician can go anyway. Depends on the kind of advisor, depends on the technician. You want to be that technician that people are like, oh, I'm gonna run it to that person now. They know how to do it. They'll do it like this. They'll do it either fast or they'll do it properly or they'll do both. You know what I mean? That's my recommendation. But yeah, man, overall, a black man as a mechanic, I would say 7 out of 10. If you could find, if you could work at a shop where the racism is to a minimum. Like I said, you'll get there. You'll have 50-year-old, you know what I'm saying, guys that ain't really, they might not have, white guys that might not have ever even worked with black people before. A lot of white people that are that age, I found they don't necessarily like that. When they got into that trade, there wasn't really any black people there. Maybe in that city that you're working in, there might not have been much black people in that trade. So now black people are coming in, Latinos are coming in, Asians are coming in, and they might have that they took our job kind of mentality. You know what I'm saying? And they're not happy about trying to teach you stuff. You think they want to teach you stuff? This ain't all white people. This ain't all white guys in the trade. You know what I'm saying? Or anything like that. This ain't all the whatever. That's not the case. What I'm saying is, if you could find a shop that's not the energy there, which they're there, they're all over the place. Just find a shop like that. The hard part is you got to go search for it. So you just got done, you know what I'm saying, with technical college, or you know what I'm saying, you're brand new and you're a lube tech and you walk into that shop, and as soon as you walk in, well, usually you come in a shop meeting. You'll come in and, this is Mike, he's, new here, he's where we working at before. Oh, okay. So now everybody knows where you come from, what your skill set is, right? And they're gonna be watching you for sure. You won't even see it either. They'll be watching you, especially the older tech in the shop. It's the one that asks you all the questions. Where were you at before? They're trying to figure out. They're looking at competition. They're looking at there's so much stuff going on in these shops. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, 7 out of 10. If there's no weird racism, weird shit going on, 7 out of 10.